Wah, lumayan deras ini, Pak.
Wah, gantian sini sudah gerimis.
Itu link yang barunya, Pak.
Oke. Assalamualaikum Prof. Khoiruddin.
Mana Mas Fahmi sehat?
Sehat Prof, Alhamdulillah.
Suara
Suara saya bisa? Ya. Prof, suaranya agak kecil, mohon maaf Prof.
Halo, halo.
Oke, sudah
Ya,
terdengar
baik,
Prof.
terima kasih.
Oke. Bisa kita mulai Prof?
Oke.
Baik, saya buka dahulu. Eh, oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let's say thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us guidance, happiness, healthy, and also mercy, so we can attend and participate in this special event without any obstacles. Praise and salutation upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us to the path of the light from the darkness in this life. The Honorable Associate Professor Dr. Khoiruddin as the Dean of Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta, and the Honorable Professor Dr. Khoiruddin Nasution as the speaker for today's session. And I would like to welcome to International Short Course with the theme the Dynamic of Islamic Law. This is the first short course that organized by Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta. And the dynamic of Islamic law short course is intended to provide a broader insight into dynamic Islamic law. By joining this program, participants will get more insight and learn further about Islamic legal study. Before we are going further into the main session, let me introduce myself. My name is Fahmi Fairuzzaman as the moderator for today's session. Today, this session is the second for today. Also, I would like to warmly welcome today's speaker for the second session, Professor Dr. Khoiruddin Nasution from Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, as well as participants of today's session. Thank you so much for joining us today. And before we get started with the main session, I'm going to explain some rules to ensure the participants can interact with myself as moderator and the speaker. Firstly, the presentation will last approximately for an hour or 60 minutes from the speakers and will be followed by 20 minutes of question and answer sessions. And during the presentation session, I would like to ask the participants to keep mute their respective Zoom accounts so not to interfere the presentation. And secondly, if you wish to ask to the speakers a question, please use the raise hand feature on the screen, or you can also use the chat room feature to give the question, and I will help to read it to the speaker. Okay. Before we start the presentation, I would like to read a brief introduction to our speaker. Professor Dr. Khoiruddin is a professor from Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, and has been lecturing for more than 30 years. He also actively teaching in some other university, especially in doctoral program of law. And one of it is in the doctoral program of law, Universitas Islam Indonesia. He also has produced many scientific works published in the form of books, journal articles, and others. We are honored to be able to attend and guide the session as moderator with Professor Khoiruddin. Today, Professor Khoiruddin will talk about the relation between state and religion. So without any further ado, let's begin the presentation session with Professor Dr. Khoiruddin Nasution. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mas Fahmi. Fairuzzaman ya.
Yes, Prof.
Ya, bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله لا نبي بعده أما بعد distinguished speakers, committees and participants of the short course, and the Dean of the Faculty of Law of Universitas Muhammadiyah Solo, and all people who can join this program for this today with this special program. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So, of course, first of all, I'd like to thanks to the participant to the committee invite me to this moment, this event, make me possible to meet and share with many people, respected speakers and participants. I don't know, maybe some from abroad and maybe some students, maybe some I know, maybe not. So by this event, then we can know each other, and by which then we can continue our sharing knowledge for the future, formally, informally, and non-formally, and in any time, in any place, in any event. And maybe say that tak kenal maka tak sayang. Yeah. So by this we understand each other and we love each other and can continue our relationship, our brotherhood, our relationship in knowledge, in science, in all aspect of life that I think maybe good for us. So I think we have to thanks to the committee. Of course, we just thanks to the God, syukur for Allah, and still give us the healthy, give us the opportunity, give us the witness. Also, because many people like to join, but maybe they have no time, they have no opportunity, they have many reasons. But all of us in this forum, in this event is possible, given by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And salawat and salam to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and hope you can follow his guidance, and by which inshallah will happy, will safety here and hereafter inshallah. Okay, so the title of my I don't know, draft of paper, let's say, or my maybe PPT, short PPT, is the relationship between state and religion, and I focus on the concept and practice in the application of Islamic family law. Yeah, sorry, because my focus in Islamic law is especially in Islamic family law. So then just let me to focus the subject into the Islamic family law. Okay. Objective of the paper is to show that the establishment and the implementation of the Islamic teaching, especially in Islamic family law, is important and even organ of the involvement of the state or the government. Even with the involvement of the government of the state, so that the people compile with the marriage law, the acceptance of the Indonesian people is still low. So even though it has been a long time, let's say the law of marriage has been stated in the 1974, but until now the result, I don't know, the understanding of the people is still low. Not only in the remote area, but also in the city. Not only for the uneducated, but also for the educated people. So this article I just writing try to prove that the involvement, let's say the good work between state and religion, I think is of course needed. Yeah, it's urgent. They have to work each other. So I think that's the idea of this paper. So the subject is the concept of the relationship between state and religion, And then second one, practice and application of Islamic community law related to the relationship between state and religion. And then lastly, conclusion. Okay, so in explaining the relationship between state and religion, several terms are used. Some of the terms in principle group into three. The term are theocracy. Second one is moderate. The third one liberal or secular. Other terms, I think, yeah, almost similar meaning. Country based on religion. Second one, religion as the spirit of the state. And then the third one, secular state. And then still other terms, integral, symbiotic, and secular. So I think these three classification with a little bit different terms principally is maybe not the same but similar. Basically, for the integral, saying that the religion and state has to be integrated. They say that it's not possible state without religion, and also say that religion is not possible without state. So then these two institutions, has to be work together. So it's not only work together, but has to be one, has to be integrated. Of course, the reason for this, I say that the interpretation of the ulama, maybe the seculars who's popular with this idea is among us Ibn Taymiyyah maybe, and also maybe Said Qutb, and maybe start from his teacher, maybe Al-Manar, ya, from the Egypt, and then maybe Al-Maududi, and some other scholars. And then the second one, symbiotic. You say that they work each other. Some I say that actually there is no Al-Quran and Hadith saying that the religion has to be supported by the state, or state has to be religion. But the religion, let's say Al-Quran and Hadith provide principle of how we build a government, how we build a state. So the principle, the norm is there, but the how the form is, it depends on us. How is the principle is there, but the style, the form is, it depends on the situation. It depends on where are you. It depends on the context. But it has to be based on the Islamic or the Al-Quran and its principle. So they say work each other, but it's not going to be one. Yeah. And then the third one is secular state, is separated from religion and state. So religion is the institution focused on the religion, while the state is focused on the state. So they work by themselves. They work spiritedly. They don't want to. They don't need one another. Even say that sometimes religion bother the state. So then by this, then we have to be separated. So the people also have to be separated. So the people who organize religion is there, and the people who organize the state is there. So they have different areas and different jobs. But yeah, so that's the idea. Just like maybe with the provocative words, they have to separate it. They have to work by themselves. They don't want to see one another. Even if they work together, it will bother. So the religion will bother the state, when we saying that the state will bother the religion. So that's why then they have to spread each other. So that's I think the style of the relationship between state and religion. And then in the Indonesian context, people are saying that it appears 4 styles. So one is integration between religion and state as 2 integrated things, as I think Samuel did the integrated, yeah. And then the second one, that religion and the state run in a vortex of conflict and deny each other between 2, as happened in West Sumatra, maybe in also West Java, So, sorry. Bu. And then the third one, peace, a dynamic dialectical relationship between region and state. And I think this one is maybe always similar with what we call in the second style for the third classification, for the three classification. And then the last one is the religion and state, a pure secular ritualistic relationship. So it means that it almost the same with the secular state. Okay, so noticing the meaning or the style of the relationship between religion and state. So now we just have a look to the practice or the application or the experience maybe in Indonesia related to what we call the Islamic community law. Practice in application of Islamic community laws, the relationship between the state and the religion in relation to implementation of Indonesian Islamic marriage law can be explained by looking at the history of birth and the stipulation of number of laws and regulations in field of Islamic community law. One is the birth of the law number 1 of 1974 on marriage. The second one, law number 7 of 1989 on the religious code. And the third one is the compilation of Islamic law. The history of birth and stipulation of law and regulation Islamic law. So the measuring the relationship between state and religion can be seen or measured by looking at the process of determining or enforcement its and its content. It means here the law, that the stipulation of laws and regulation is an agreement between legislative, House of Representatives, DPR, and the executive president. History of birth and stipulation of law number 1 of 1974 on marriage. The term of determination process, it can be explained as follows. In terms of the determination process, it can be explained as follows. One, the birth of law number 1 of 1974 on marriage began with the excitement of several Indonesian intellectuals, among whom were Rohana Kudus from West Sumatra, Raden Ajeng Kartini from Central Java, and then it's congregated into collective excited, which was reflected in the meeting of women's organization. After long process, the draft law was finally approved by the DPR and President. So in other words, we say that actually the demand for the birth of the stipulation of this law has been appear long time ago, and stated from the individual intellectual, I say, individual like Rohana Kudus from West Sumatra, saying that, or writing in his book, in his writing, saying that the bad effect of the application of, let's say, the Convention Islamic Community Law. Because in this concept, a law under 8 people and under 8 marriage, and it's a law to do the forced marriage, and it's a law like, let's say, quote unquote polygamy, and then the practice of the divorce is so let's say under the power of the man. So the power has good, even the absolute power when the woman is put it in the inferior. So by which then may produce problems because of the underage marriage, because the spouse is not ready yet to organize their family, to build the life, and also to even actually also to the reproductive tools is not ready yet. But because the Islamic family law say and law to this, and then people doing that, and it create a problem. And similar things happen in many areas, but of course, because maybe not one intellectual from these all people from these areas, so then we don't know. But the thing that we know, because the Rohana Kudus can write, and then he writes, so that we know. And Ajeng Kartini also write, and then we know. Maybe, of course, it also happened in many areas, but we don't know because no people think that word. So then many women, they they make a organization, and then this we call the organization of women. Then they have a meeting, and in this meeting they discuss about this problem, and also we know it because yeah, it happened, for example, in 1929, 1928, and followed in 1960, 1965, and 19, so it has been a long time ago. These people, this Indonesian intellectual oppose, or let's say they promote to the government so that the Indonesian has to organize, has to make law so that Indonesian people marry with the, let's say that according to the Al-Quran and Hadith. So it seems that according to these people, actually what's happening not really based on Al-Quran Hadith, but based on the product, the fikih, in which maybe it has its own context, different from Indonesia. So then, but people, and because the ustad and the khatib, the teachers in the school, they read only the what we call the kitab kuning, and they believe, even actually they believe in this more than Al-Quran and Hadith. And then so that the idea is the underage marriage, it happened because it's low. The forced marriage is happened because it's the kakek, the father, have what we call the hak ijbar, because dia ada wali mujbir. So then by this, it's the fact then make many problem in the society. So then society is why, like Rohana Kudus, they look at this, they look at it, and then they say it is a problem in our society. So we have to overcome this problem. The way to overcome the problem, we have to make a law. The law, and then make the law is based on Al-Quran and Hadith, and has to be in accordance with the Indonesian context, not produce the low generation, not produce the have to be, the family has to be a good family, has to be a respected family, but not the weak family. Okay, so then similarly with the law of number the law, so almost the same as the base of the law number 7 of 1989 on the religious code, also took a long time. So it can be said that the enactment of the law is also full of twists and turns. Finally, the draft law was approved by the president. So while the fate of the KHI is unclear, one of the reasons is that the government, the executive, and people responsible, they pay less attention on it. So you mean that actually KHI as a product of Indonesian scholars or Indonesian Muslim scholars actually has to be agreed by the government, has to be stipulated, because the government maybe, we don't know the reason, maybe because they think that maybe they hope they don't have any interest with this draft, so then it's never stipulated. They never put it as a thing that we have to think about. So then until now it's still there. So law number 1 of 1974, law number 7 of 1989 is, I think, under the Suharto. So I think we have to thank to Suharto because of his initiative. Then this law is stipulated, but until now the KHI is still not stipulated yet. Okay, then move on to the history of the stipulation of the law number 1 of 1971 merit. Okay, so in more detail about the process of the law number 1 of 1974 marriage. Okay, just mentioned to it. Darren Ajeng Kartini in Central Java and Rohana Kudus in Minangkabau, West Java are figures who have long criticized the evil caused by the underage marriage, forced marriage, polygamy, and divorce. Indonesian women Kowani in 1928, for example, discussed the evils that occur in the marriage accordance to the Islam conventional mean, namely state marriage, forced marriage, polygamy, arbitrary divorce from the husband, So this means that this women's organization demand the issues of the marriage law, and they have even discussed in the People's Council. So it has been a long time ago. This women organization discussed about this problem, and they promote that the government has to make a law on this so that it's not happen again what we call the underage marriage, not happen again what we call the divorce marriage, not happen again what we call the divorce under the authority, under the absolute right of the man, of the woman, while women is in inferior, they have no right at all. It all creates a problem in the society. Also continued these people continued because until 1929 not responded from the government, and that happened again between 1960 until 63. 3 meetings have recorded which also discuss issues of marriage law and its legislation, namely the National Conference on Family Welfare, which was held by the Ministry of Social Affairs in 1960, the Conference of Marriage and Divorce Settlement Advisory Board (PP4) was held by the Ministry of Religion in 1962. National Law Seminar organized by the National Legal Development Institution together with the National Law Association Persahi in 1963. So that is the history of the stipulation of the law number 1 of 1974. So law number 1 1772, it has been promoted by the women organization by some movements since 1929 in organization, and even earlier when we look at it from personally. Ajahn Kartini, I think you still have other people, other figures, but not we know because he don't have night. Even I think the last 2 years I know there's one also woman from North Sumatra, and his name is I forget his name, but she moved to Lampung, and then from Lampung his moved to Holland, Netherlands. So he finished or she finished his degree, his study in in doctoral degree in 18 such. So it's before 19. So it seems that she is the first woman who studied in the Holland, in the Netherlands. But I think no one know this woman, and I think I now try to find out who is she, and maybe she has a book or maybe articles or writing talking about things. So now until my research on it, so that we know who actually she is and what did she do when she was in Lampung and in North Sumatra, and also open to Netherlands. So I think we still have many women scholars who actually they are try to say that to think people to ask people to think about the problem in society because of this the family problems, because of the practice of what we call the underage marriage, the forced marriage, and other things related to. So then by which we know we will know individually and organization. Actually it has been a long time ago they come to say to the people that we have to change this law, we have to stipulate, we have to make new law, and finally it is stipulated in the Suharto era. But after this, and I think almost no things, not even happened to this law. And last, of course, in 2019, we just make some amendment. Only one article of the law number 1 of 1974. So now, because the government, because the PR, the executive, the legislative not make any improvement significantly. So what has been done by the Mahkamah Agung, Supreme Court, they try to make SEMA, Surat Edaran Mahkamah Agung, as tools for the judge in Islamic court to make to produce a new law, because the government does not respond to the demand of the society related to this family law, and then the Supreme Court try to make some ijtihads related to the problem of the family, and they create, because the problem now is related to the woman, because the woman is always they say that because of the man, then women become problem. So then the Supreme Court try to make a law to organize, then the judge in the court, and also related to the child as effect of the divorce. So they have or they say that the 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 judge in the law to solve the problem. So then this all actually the way used to make some reform in the Islamic family law. Okay, return back to this. So I think it, in relation to the people's compliance with the law of marriage, is still relatively low, even though it has been established and enforced for a very long time, 46 years, is still people who, let's say, who follow, maybe who believe, maybe who agree that this law has to be followed, that law has to be implemented, this law has to be applied. And even I say that not only for people who live in remote area, not only people who are uneducated, but educated people, and also urban people, still not all follow this law, not all recognize the law, not all believe that the law, the Indonesian law, is good for the people to 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 build a society, to build a state. Still not all people, still maybe say that still less. So as part of the practice of Islamic teaching in the field of marriage, it turned out that its implementation is not immediately obey the people. Even with the role of the government, the acceptance by the people is relatively low. So what we're trying to say is that this law, even though it takes a long time to stipulate it by the government, but then the government accept, recognize. So by which we saying that there is a relationship, there is a good work between government at state and the people who try to, let's say, to apply the Islamic law. So in this way, say the religion. But with this this partnership, this good work still less succeeded. So how can we imagine if it's not the, if it without the involvement of the state? So by saying that, so then by this, then we say that actually the relationship between religion and state, even though it's not integrated, but I think it has to be work each other. It has to be help each other. It has to be a partnership. So by saying that the religion, yeah, of course, if it is we are Indonesian people, all Muslim people, maybe we'll follow the Islamic teaching without the control of the state, the control of the police, the control of the law. But in fact, you are now not at the level of Muslim, so still need the control of the government, the control of the law. So then we still need the law. So to apply the law, to enforce the law, I think is less if it's not the involvement of the government. So the involvement of the government, the partnership with this religion and state is still needed for 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 socialize the law, for make people understand the law, for make people follow the law, for make people believe that the law is actually, yeah, the Indonesian Islamic law and is different from the what we call the Islamic family formulated by the ulama fikih, by the ulama mazhab, by the ulama and sahabat. We don't say that is not true. Of course, we say that is true, is good, but they have their own context, and we have our own context. So because of this, then we have to produce our law based on our context, and in some cases, it's different from the law it has been formulated by the ulama mazhab. So then the conclusion of this paper is saying that in relation to the Islamic family law, the relationship between state and religion has to be walk each other, has to be in good relation, has to be understand each other, even though not has to be integrated, but of course, I think not separated. I think that's the introduction of the my paper, and we just discuss or talk, we're sharing idea, and I'm sorry if maybe something is not as you hope, as you expect, and I think yeah, thanks for us, and hopefully we can share, we can discuss, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, that's the presentation from Professor Khoiruddin Nasution, and thank you for your very insightful presentation. Now, we come to the next section, and that is the question and answer session. For the participants, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand using the feature on the screen, or you can use the chat room. So I will maybe open for the first questioner. If there is any question, please you can ask directly. Okay, maybe while we are waiting, I would like to summarize a little bit about the presentation today. Professor Khoiruddin already explained to us about the topic, the relation between state and religion, and for this, especially in the context of Islamic family law in Indonesia. And in the presentation already show that the establishment and implementation of Islamic teachings in the field of Islamic law, Islamic family law, is important and even urgent of the involvement from the government, from the state. Even with the involvement of the state, people comply with the marriage law. The acceptance of Indonesian people is still low. So Professor Khoiruddin also explained in this context, in the Indonesian context, there are four things. The first, integration between religion and state as two inseparable things. And the second, that the religion and the state run in a vortex of conflict and deny each other between the two, as happened in the West Sumatra. And the third is build a dynamic dialectical relationship between religion and the state. And the last, the fourth, is that religion and state appear secular ritualistic relationship. Professor Khoiruddin also explained regarding the history of our Islamic family law that developed in Indonesia until nowadays, especially regarding the stipulation of law number 1 of 1974 on the marriage. And thus, the brief summaries from today's presentation. Please, for the participant, if you have any question, you can ask directly or use the room chat, please. Is there any question from the participants? And we can discuss together with Professor Khoiruddin here today. We still have several minutes to discuss. You can raise your hand and mention your name, or you can use the chat room to ask. Okay, let me check the chat room. Okay, after this, I will also share the attendance list later after the question and answer session. Okay. Okay, maybe while we are waiting, I would like to share. Okay. Okay, I think there is.
Who are the participants, Pak Fahmi?
The participants is from abroad, some from abroad, outside Indonesia, and some from UMS, from the undergrad, and also Master of Law program, and also Doctor of Law program. So I think it's a wide, various participants.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's a question from on the chat. Okay, maybe I will read it. Okay, there is a question. I think it's directly sent to me. I will read it for Professor Khoiruddin. The question from Mr. Syafuddin. He asks about in the application of Islamic law in Indonesia, we know the reception theory. Do you think that theory is still influential today, Prof. Khoiruddin? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, good question, yeah. Yeah, last night I just read paper on the practice of walimatul urus ya in Palembang, but it's in remote area, and these people are saying that actually what happened in this area, I forgot the name of the area of the rural area, saying that when the family have ceremony of the wedding, and in fact they follow what we call the adat law, and in which there is, if I will not forget, 4 days for the ceremony, and started by what we call the preparing for the ceremony, and in which the people around just come to the house of the wedding party, and then they what we call the ceremony of memotong-motong, cutting things, cutting chicken, cutting if it is maybe it depends on the family, but they what we call it, yeah, cutting bawang, cutting vegetables, cutting, and the second day is for the still preparation, and they clean and they prepare for the cooking. And then the third day is especially for the cooking, for preparing for the post for the day after, and when is the ceremony. And then during this time, during these 4 days, of course, it's spend much money, and in some cases, actually, the family has not, let's say, less ability to this money for this ceremony, but because the other, let's say, push them, maybe say that they have to do that. So then, because of this, then they borrow the money, and after this, sometimes they are not able to return the money. And when the research as the tokoh adat, the ulama saying that, yeah, it has been our adat here since long time ago. And if you don't do that, and then people will not respect you. People saying that you don't respect the other, you don't respect the what has been followed by our grandfather. So then by this law, by this way, by this other, by this sleeping law, and then people try to force, try to, even though they actually aren't able to, they don't have any ability to. But because of this other, then they, in fact, they are Muslim. So then when we look at this, maybe, yeah, what we call the reception is still there, meaning that actually the community, the Muslim Indonesia still follow ada more than the Islamic teaching. And by saying that, if the Islam is in accordance with the other, and then they follow it. If not, then they say no. So it's one articles. And also a few weeks ago also I read article about the waris in Pekalongan. It's also the same, means that they follow ada more than the Islamic teaching. So the law ada in inheritance in this area, where of course also in one village in Pekalongan, I also forget the name. Yeah, they have the law, they have the ada where the anak paling kecil has more have the inheritance, because usually, and after that, usually he will take after their parents. So that because he will take look after their parents, so they need money, they need things. So then they have the inheritance more than others. So the consideration is not based on the what has been teaching in Al Quran and the Hadith, but they just follow the other, because when we say, but you are the Muslim, yeah, because we know this, and in some case also we say that it's okay because they agree with. Means actually in waris also there is another law. It not always follow the what has been stated in the Al Quran. It has to be lidhakari mithlu hadhil untayan. But there is a possibility, if you do musyawarah, if you agree, if all agree that the yours is this one, but of course they say that before we have an agreement, we have to understand before that actually mine is this one and you is this and set one this one, but because we already live together already, because she is the person who will look after our parents, then we agree that he's have more than us. So then in waris, of course, say that if it's based on agreement, it's okay, it's no problem. But the point is that in many cases is still there, that actually the people, the Muslim Indonesia in some areas still follow ada more than Islamic teaching. I think that's the point. So in some cases I read is there. So if you ask there, maybe the question is in some areas is yes. So the reception is still there, but I am not saying all, but in some cases, and it is reported by some readings or some research. I think that's the answer for Mas Fahmi. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Khoiruddin, for the answer. Actually, maybe before I mistakenly setting the chat room, so we now can see some of the question. I would like to read it for you. The next question is from Mr. Budi. First, if we look at the reality of what happened in Indonesia, what kind of relationship is there between the religion and the state? And the second, why are marriages directed at the laws of their respective religions, but there are still many people to outsmart interfaith marriage, Prof.
Okay, to the first question, how is the relationship between state and religion? For me, I think Islamic family law, of course, it's religion. Even though, of course, yeah, Islamic family law is explained before, and also we understand, yeah, has many mazhab, yeah. Yeah, we have what we call mazhab Shafi'i schools, yeah, yeah, Maliki, Hanafi, Hambali. But the point is actually is religion. And after, of course, we say that considering the context of Indonesia, considering what's happening in the society, as explained before, by obeying, by application, by applying this law, based, for example, on the Shafi'i mazhab, saying that is a law, or there is what we call the right for the wali, especially wali father and grandfather, what we call the ijibar, or we call them wali mujibir. The power is the authorities, they have authority to marry their children, their child, their daughter, or the granddaughter, to marry to somebody without the permission of these children, without permission of this daughter. So it calls enforced marriage. In fact, based on this, according to this, we say that intellectual people, I mean, why we say that intellectual people? Because they take other, pay attention to the society what's happening there. They look at the society, they see that, and then they see, oh, this family become like this because of the enforced marriage. This problem of the family because of the divorce. This family because of the polygamy, because the undermarried. So by this, then that's why to promote, we have to make a new law for Indonesian people, for Indonesian Muslim, because Indonesia has its own context, and it's not, maybe we don't say it not right, but it's not contextually applied in Indonesia. So the concept of this underage marriage, the context of enforced marriage, the context of this concept of polygamy and divorce is not actually what we say that when we understand Al-Quran thematically, maybe they understand it thematically. They actually, when we say that the renewal of the Islam in Islamic law, actually to change the law, what we call the patriarchal law, to be equality law, or we say that the patriarchal law change to the gender justice law. So if the renewal of Islam, then what we're doing in Indonesia is not in line with this, because what's happening is that the man, the woman, the husband is superior, the man, wife is inferior. So it's not based on Islam. It's not Islam. The Islamic family law put women and men in equal right. And what happening in society on they apply is not based on this, but the woman is inferior, the man is superior. So that's so then they have to say that the man has the right to marry without permission of the of herself. The polygamy is allowed to marry more than one wife, and in some case no let's say reason consideration. And the authority of divorce is under the husband, the woman, the man, and women almost has no right to the divorce, and almost they have no right to say no. So this all law, according to this intellectual people, is not actually in the line of Islam. So we have to change this. So so we look at Al-Quran thematically, and we can conclude that actually the Islam comes to remove, to change, to renew what we call the patriarchal law to be equal law, to be gender justice law. And then by this, so that is why then the people. So the relationship, so it is of course religion. This Islamic religion, this teaching of religion. So this law, as I say before, that we are not ready yet to follow this law independently. Still needed the government, still the enforcement. So as I said before, if we are all Muhsin people, means that we can control ourselves without the control of the government, the control of the law, the control of the, and then of course it's okay, it's good. But in fact, it's not. Even we already have the law, but people not obey the law. So then the law in here, I think the Islamic law. So the law in Islamic law is law based on religion. So then this religion, so the religion, the Islamic teaching in Islamic family law is not applied by the people. So then we need the government to push them to follow the law, to push them to follow what has been formulated by the Muslim scholars, especially in the context of Indonesia. So, just I think the law. So the relationship is Islamic, the law is religion, and state is this institution who in which push the people to follow the religion. So I think is to call the religion. So this is the first question. And the second one, sorry, Mas Fahmi, I forget the second one.
Okay, the second one, maybe it's also related with another question, Mr. Kodrat. I think it's the same. The question is regarding why people disobey the government regulation about the marriage. Maybe we still married
Okay.
with the different religion.
For me myself, I say that not understand yet. Actually, what has been stated by the government actually is an institution which try to accommodate the demand of the people. So just look at the history of the just explained before. Actually, the demand of this law is based on society, based on say that the intellectual people. Of course, not all society, because the people who understand the problem is not all. The people who understand the problem is maybe less. So the people who understand this problem, who promote to saying that we have to make a law. And of course, the law we made has to be based on Quran and Hadith, not based on the Hawa Nafsu, based on. So then the law stipulated by the government, actually the law based on the Al-Quran and Hadith. And I said before, of course, the understanding is based on understanding Al-Quran and Hadith by thematically, not partially. So when we look at the way, the reason why actually the concept of discrimination of women, it happened because understanding Al-Quran Hadith partially. Only one ayah, even less of one ayah, maybe just one third of ayah, or with two thirds of ayah. And they say that conclusion. The conclusion of this verse is this. In fact, the contemporary scholars saying that actually the right way to understand Al-Quran has to be at least understanding it thematically. So when you want to know about the marriage, read all Quranic verses discuss about marriage, and then make a conclusion. And when we do that, okay, then you do understand Al-Quran based on Al-Quran. But if only you read Al-Quran one verse, even maybe just a half of the verse, and then you make a conclusion, of course it's not. Because Al-Quran is not the law book. Al-Quran is given to the Muhammad one by one based on the case. There is a case, and then it responded by the ayah. Another case happened, and then responded. So you have to understand it thematically so that we know the concept. So then when we look at this problem, yeah, saying that is the law of the government, is not the law of religion. So this actually, I think that's true. So one problem why people don't obey the government regulation, because they think that the law produced by the government, is the state, is not religion. So that's why saying that, because still less understanding what actually the meaning of law. And in fact, actually the law, let's say, number 1 of 1974 is based on Al-Quran and Hadith, and it's actually also the same with what has been produced by the Imam Shafi'i, produced by the Imam Hanafi, means that this understanding based on Al-Quran, and of course depends on the context. They have their own context, and then they understand it, and now we have our context, and we have understand based on our context. It also happened in many countries. So I think less understanding of the concept of regulation, it may be one reason why people disobey the law. Of course, not only this reason, still many reasons. But I think one of the problem is because this understanding or misunderstood of, we call the law number 1 is actually religious law or is actually state law. So some people think that is state law, not religious law. So I think misunderstood.
Okay, the misunderstanding. Okay, maybe Prof. Khoiruddin, I think there is one more question. Maybe this is the last question. Okay, there is another question from Feza, one of the students from UMS. With regard to the enactment of Islamic marriage law in Indonesia, what is its position with respect to customary law, which also applies in every region in Indonesia? For example, in Java, there is a custom that prohibits the marriage of child number 1 with child number 3. On the other hand, in Islam, it is clear that the prohibition of marriage does not questioning about this. So what is the correct solution in such a practice? Thank you.
Yeah, in one side, we try to understand it sociologically. Yeah. We just try to understand, just saying that it happened. Why it happened, we try to understand, because it has been practiced by father, grandfather. But in some cases, actually, this practice is not believed by their father. So let's say we try to understand by study with what we call the phenomenological studies, in which we try to find actually the substance, the basic, the understanding. So in some cases, when we ask why still do this ceremony, some people say that actually we do this just respect to our parents. You believe that? I don't believe. But still follow. Just respect our parents. It means that actually they say that the value of this ceremony is not the same as has been done by the grandfather and our father. So it happened, I think, in course not cases here. In some cases it happened. So when we do study phenomenologically, we try to understand, we try to ask them the basic, the belief of this ceremony. Not all people actually believe. But when we say that what characters of people who don't believe, maybe we say that the more people educated, I think the less they believe. I think so. If, of course, it's not absolute, yeah. So the more people socialize with other people, I think the less they believe this other. So I think by the time, I think this kind of other will disappear, because this generation, they follow, they do the ceremony, but the meaning for them is not the meaning for their parents, the meaning for their grandfather is less. So they do it only just to follow, just to respect their parents, not because they believe. I think that's one point. So when we look at it still happen, yeah, I think it happens, still is there. But because the children, the son, they still respect their parents. And in some cases also try to ask what we call the ceremony of apa itu orang istri hamil 7 bulan, mitoni ya, mitoni. I try to ask the new generation, and actually in fact they do it not because they believe. Why we still do that? You still, yeah. Actually, I just respect my parents. If we don't do this, and then the parents will say, "You are now a succeed person, my child." No, but you don't believe. You forget your. So then, so to respect their parents, they follow. They do the ceremony, but they don't believe that. I think that's the answer to this question.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Khoiruddin. Okay, let me check. Maybe we still have 5 minutes more. Maybe this will be the last. The question is from Miss Marisa. She asked about what is your opinion about the separation of property in marriage in the perspective of Islam? Maybe this is related to perjanjian pisah harta, perjanjian pernikahan, etc. Thank you.
Actually, this what do you say, as a tools, yeah, to guarantee the what do you say that the future of the parent of the future of the partners, yeah. I mean that the spouse sometimes they it happened in many cases. Let's say maybe his partner or her partner is maybe a lazy person. Yeah, a lazy person is only want to spend money but don't work hard to make money. So of course they aware they worry if they lost their property, so that they make a agreement. Yeah. So I think as far as the intention is only for what do you say, that the preventive, yeah, Saddu Zari'ah, who call it Sulpiki, I think it's okay. So as far as it's not what do you say, that yeah, people try to think that if our agreement start by this agreement, it seems that we don't each other. So I think we just make this agreement not based on because we don't each other, but only to believe, only to make sure that actually one each other, we have to respect each other. When each other, we have to, let's say, yes, we have to support, to work hard so that we can make money. So not continue your laziness, not continue your stupidity. Yeah. So maybe pay for this intention, I think it's okay. So I mean, it's based on the intention. So it's not the law is not one. It's not saying that is haram is batal. I'm not saying that. Maybe in some cases it is less good, but in this case it's good for the guarantee, for the belief, because as I said before, because some people is very lazy, and then he want to just make always make happy without thinking how to find the money. And in fact, another side of his partner or her partner is to work hard to make money. So it seems that no partnership. So then by putting this agreement, we hope that they just to be partnership, to work hard together, to produce money, to produce the future better. I think just make just make the intention to be good things, not to the bad things. I think that's the point, Mas Fahmi.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Khoiruddin. So we come to the end of the session, but before we close the session, I would like to take some of the screenshot, Prof, for the documentation. Okay, maybe we will start from the first page. Please, participants can turn on the camera so I can take the screenshot or the picture for this session. Okay, the first page, one. Okay, I'm still waiting for some participant turning on their camera. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next page, 1, 2, 3. Okay, third page, 1, 2, 3, and the last page. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's already done for the screenshot, the documentation, and finally, we come to the end of the session because the time is up. But before closing the session, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Professor Dr. Khoiruddin Nasution for taking time today and willing to joining us in today's international short course by Faculty of Law, UMS. Thank you so much, Prof. Khoiruddin.
And thanks so much for inviting me. Can I share to other people to participate in this seminar?
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. So finally, at the end of the session, let's recite Hamdalah. Alhamdulillah. Amin. Ladies and gentlemen, and especially the speakers, Prof. Khoiruddin Nasution, thank you very much for joining us today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you,
Prof.
Okay, terima kasih Mas Fahmi. Thank you to all. Okay, thank you all.